This episode of Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Mack Weldon. Mack Weldon believes in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. They got socks, shirts, undershirts, hoodies, sweatpants, and the most comfortable underwear my tush has ever had the pleasure of meeting. Most importantly, they're all about comfort. So if you don't like your first pair, you can keep it, and then they'll still refund you. No questions asked. Here's one of the coolest things. They have a line of silver underwear and shirts that are naturally antimicrobial. That's a fancy word that means it eliminates odor, so it'll probably help people. Like, I'm not going to name any names like Kevin or anything, but it'd probably help him. It's good for working out, going to work, going on dates. You know, I'm not really sure there's any situation they aren't great for, at least any situation that requires wearing underwear. You know, you feel me? Talking about sex. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off using promo code GAMESCAST. Next topic.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you about your little adventures in Vegas.
Oh.
This topic, though, and this whole show, actually, only possible because of Patreon producer Salem got him, all got him.
Hey, how you doing, Salem?
Yeah.
We say your name that way. We're sorry.
Yeah, I hope it's kind of right.
I forget.
I'm trying.
We listened to
as
it
long
last
as you
time.
know that I'm trying.
He's enjoying the shtick, I'm sure.
Great.
Plus, I had a DM him about it, so he got a DM from Greg Miller. I'm sure he's
That
over
DM,
the moon.
You slid into them
Slid in
DMs?
the DMs.
Salem got him, all got him
Yeah.
DMs?
Dice.
You went to Dice.
I did go to
You
Dice.
didn't only go to Dice. Your
Yeah.
first ever Dice.
First ever Dice.
You hosted the Dice Awards.
Yeah.
With Jessica Chobot.
With Jessica Chobot.
Reunited. Did it feel so good?
It felt so good. Oh my
Okay.
God. No, that was one of the best things about it. So yeah, I went and hosted the Dice Awards, 20th Annual Dice Awards. And they approached me first, I think, and they were like, hey, we'd like, actually, it's funny. They were having a conversation, the board of directors. And it was Shuhei Yoshida, who's over there on that board, who's like, hey, this guy's going to hit you up and you need to talk to him because it just don't blow off this email kind of thing. And it was the thing of like, hey, we were thinking about you for the Dice Awards. It's like, oh, that's really awesome. You know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, we're thinking of you and Jessica Chobot. I was like, that's awesome. Like, blah, blah. And it was one of those things. He asked a question about it. I'm like, honestly, I don't know that answer because Jess and I never did this. Like this is what, you know what I mean? Like now it's easy to see her at the Nerdist and me Kind of Funny and be like, oh, well, they both came from IG and they host stuff together all the time. Like I was, rookie editor and like I worked my way up while Chobot was there, but like that was still when they were like, we're not putting editors on camera. You know what I mean? Like that's Chobot's rolling there. That's Aaron Boulding and we're going to put all these, they're going to do all these different things. So like we never worked as peer talent.
It's a dynamic duo.
Exactly. No. So yeah, to get together and work with her and like hang out with her again too. That's the other thing. I see Jess in passing at shows all the time, have a conversation. I don't know if you know this. I'm in love with her husband, Blair. So I talk to Blair all the time. I go to brunch with Blair when he comes to San Francisco. But Jess is always not here for business. So like to do stuff and work with her again, yeah, it was great. We had a good chemistry. Mike Drucker wrote the script. I was able to finagle him a job in there. And it was just fun to be around that energy and do that kind of thing because that's not, it is what we do, but it's not what we do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We always talk about this. Like there was a couple moments last year that happened that were really fun for me and you.
Sure.
You and I, whatever the fuck. You people out there, where like one of them was the Final Fantasy event,
of course,
where we went and it was, they gave us like, here's all the bullet points you need to hit. Here's the lines that we really want you to say. But besides that, be Tim and Greg.
Yep.
Be goofy, be stupid, play to the Kind of Funny audience.
Yeah.
Like we want this to feel.
Well, you and I was going to talk about that one where it was like when we got the first draft and they're like, all right, cool, let's walk through it. And they open with a rewind theater. And we were like, oh, like you've watched what we do. Like, yeah, you'll be on Green. You'll talk. Like, what do you mean? We know who you are. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. Like, it sounds stupid, but like, sometimes people just hire hosts to be hosts and they don't know anything about their content. So like for them to play to our strengths that way was great.
Which was super awesome. And so we did that and it was really fun and it was a great experience. And I'll never forget there was a time like when we first got there to the Shrine Theater and
Shrine Auditorium.
the Shrine Auditorium and you were like, holy shit, like this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is a real thing.
Because we're so used to just like, oh yeah, we'll show up, we'll talk about video games.
Yeah.
Like we know how to do that. But like being there was like, oh, this is real.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, because it was just like, I always talk about it, we're so busy with Kind of Funny. And it's great. It's a great problem to have. I'm glad it's not the alternative. But we're so busy that I get to think 2 days ahead, maybe. You know what I mean? Like I need to book that trip to Edmonton still. Haven't done it, but it's because it's 2 weeks away. I don't have fucking time to worry about that.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how we have to think. So when we got to the Shrine that day and we were walking up and I was on the phone about something, I looked up and it was like, 4-story tall banners for Final Fantasy. I was like, fuck, right, this is a real thing. Well, what's the worst that can happen? Oh, it could be Mr. Caffeine from E3. Fuck, we could really fuck this up if we were not paying attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the DICE Awards was the exact same thing of like, sure, yeah, I'll do the DICE Awards. And then it was when the first developer got there and snapped and tweeted at me a photo of the ticket to the DICE Awards, and it says hosted by Greg Miller and Jessica Chobot. I was like, oh, fuck, right, this is like
pretty
a real,
fucking cool.
It's cool, but it's like that's like a real thing too. Fuck, well, what's the worst that could happen in an award show? Oh, right, we did a whole topic about how award shows aren't that great, and fuck, god damn it, like, you know what I mean? And that was the thing of like,
well, I mean, I think that's what's awesome though. So we did the Final Fantasy thing. Now you did DICE, but in between, me and you hosted the GameStop Manager Expo
for Square
Enix's like presentation, and we were just there for a day doing 9 presentations, like back-to-back hour-long presentations, going through all the different games Square had coming up. And like that was another thing where they're like, all right, cool, you need like, here's the details about the game,
here's the loose stuff
make
to do.
sure that you like explain this and this and what the DLC pack and all the bullshit facts are, right?
But
besides that, they're like,
do whatever you want. Do
you guys. And we were able to.
They let me step off the stage and preach about Vita.
Yeah,
9 times.
You made fun of them not for putting games on Vita, and the games that they put on Vita, you like gave extra attention, and like people got it because that's us. And we made jokes about Mr. Caffeine at E3 and like got to do all that. And it was cool because that was a different skill set that we don't get to exercise that much. And I enjoy it because like, we get to travel the world and do panels, which is fucking awesome, and I love it. But that is just it's this. But instead of a camera, there's actual
you
people
egg us on, and then we go do something crazier.
Yeah, you know? So that's super cool. But I like that we're getting these opportunities to be able to do actual hosting, especially you. And like the DICE Awards, like it was awesome. And you brought up the topic that we did about the award shows and all that stuff and how they can be bad and whatever. And it's like, these things are hard. There's a level of corniness that you can't get away from. And like there's certain things that need to happen in order to keep the thing moving, right? Like we just watched the Oscars. I don't know if you watched it. I watched the Oscars, and like Jimmy Kimmel hosted it, and like you did a great job, but it was still awkward.
Of course.
But the fact that you got Drucker to write the jokes and punch things up and really like make it funny, it's like, what better can you do than that? Not much.
I mean, honestly, that's the thing about it. Where I love the DICE Awards were a lot of fun and great, and I think we did a good job. But it's like I told you when you texted me, like, hey man, you killed, that was great. I'm like, did we? Because I can't tell. Because I'm not one to let the comments get in my head. But it was that we went out and did the opening part, and then went backstage, and I opened up our Twitch chat because we were hosting it. And 9 out of the 10 comments that you see are like, man, the audience is dead. And I was like, you're right. And then like we go do something else, come out, and it was like they were popping for developers that were coming out, not me and Jess. And it was like, now stepping back, days removed from it. Again, I think it was fine. I think it was great. It was that I wasn't prepared on several levels. Number one, Mike tweeted at the day at somebody who was during the day that had him up like, oh, you wrote it, right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, it reads like an Up at Noon monologue in the beginning, and I didn't remember what that was like. So to go out there and do a monologue where I'm not ad-libbing because there's a punchline and there's a joke and there's a give and a take.
Well, that's the thing, so you had a teleprompter.
Yeah.
We've never had teleprompters at the other events.
Oh, sure, yeah, exactly. That was like, it's a skill I have, obviously. And I was like, oh, this is a different cadence. And then it also took away what I get to do whenever we do the other thing, where if we go out and we do a panel and the audience is on their hands, right? It's not because they don't like us, they're listening intently. And that's my whole thing where I always do the joke, right? When we do a thing of like, who's ever been to a panel before? And anybody raises their hands, I'm like, you were at a bad panel. Don't raise your hands, you're not allowed to. You have to cheer, you have to clap, you have to boo. You can do whatever you want. We do like, what if I say this? What if that happens, right? And these were developers there who are there to be respectful to each other and us. And so they came off as dead. The audience wasn't mic'd. And it's that thing of, I wasn't prepared for it on that level of like, oh shit, I should have told them I'm gonna come out and give me 2 minutes to ad lib and get, because I would have jumped off the stage, I would have ran over to Neil Druckmann, heavy lifted, I would have done stuff to make them kind of understand the vibe of who I am, and to the extent who Chobot is, right?
Yeah,
like, you know
but
what I mean?
Even then, like Chobot doesn't need to be doing that. Chobot's character, like, and I say that in terms of like what she's presenting
in an endearing way,
is a bit more like snarky in a way of like she'd be making fun of you, calling you stupid for being,
and that's
like that.
And that was the thing,
and that
like,
would work together.
And so there was that. There's the fact that, you always hear people be like, man, the audience wasn't mic'd, right? Like, and that's why it doesn't play as well. Because there was laughs in the room or whatever. That was the thing. And it's like one of these, like, if I had done this before, I would have known that I'm gonna do this. hey, we need the audience mic'd. Hey, you know what I mean? Like, I would have taken it a bit more by the horns of like, hey, we need more ad-libbing here. You know, one of the feedback in the chat and online too was like, yeah, they're good hosts, but they're not even hosting that much, because it was a lot of like, all right, cool, now it's these developers and these people and that. Because once we did our monologue, that was the heavy lifting, and then it was just that. It was like, okay, I would have done that differently. Afterwards, like the party, and it's the normal thing of everyone I passed or whatever, come like, hey, great job, you were way better than last year. This is great, blah blah. And it wasn't just the lip service thing; they were calling out specific jokes. They were telling me stories.
Yeah.
But like 2 or 3 people were like, you know, including John Drake, we're talking about the fact of, the best parts were when we ad-libbed. And they would do the thing where they looked back, like the whole Superman 64 thing goes on and I'm yelling and show about stopping me. Like, that's not scripted line for line, right? And it was like, when I came out after that one speech, I'm like, that guy was fucking awesome. Like, that wasn't scripted. And it was like, there needed to be more of that, because that got a better reaction out of the room too. And like, that was my energy. And like, I'm not saying the show was bad. I'm not saying we didn't do a great job. I'm not saying Drucker didn't do great. The production staff was amazing. That was another thing. When I walked in there and saw the set, I was like, nope, fuck, this is a real thing.
Yeah.
But it's that award show topic we did on the Gamescast of like, what makes a good one? How would we do it? Da 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 da. I didn't do that here. Here I showed up and hosted. Next year I want to be. We need to be hands on, and this is what needs to happen. And it's just, I didn't have that arsenal or ammo of information that I could have pulled from for the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was great. I thought you did great.
Thank
Everything
you.
are saying makes sense.
Yeah.
But
And that's the thing. I'm not taking away from
the
it.
video. The video's on IGN.
Yeah.
They had the exclusive streaming rights
Right.
to it. So check them out there, because I was very impressed. It was one of the things I work through every day. But I was like, shit, like constantly impressed by like what we're capable of, and you just kind of doing the Greg Miller thing.
And I don't know how much DICE stories you want to talk about or whatever. I think real quick shout outs to you guys, the best friends, of course. Obviously, you know, we owe you everything. But I got there on Wednesday, did a quick rehearsal run through just of like what's happening on stage. We ran through the script, and then there was 2 parties that night. And the first party was like the super uber exclusive, like you have to be a speaker to come in here, like you're doing something at this talk. So like I walked in, and eventually Shuhei's there and Todd Howard's there and everybody's there. But the guy who runs the whole thing, who I hadn't met yet, and I mean, I don't mean like he's producing it. I mean, he's like in charge of what is it? Not DICE, AICS, I believe it is. I don't know, the Academy of whatever.
Yeah.
He came in. He's like, oh hey, like we're so glad to have you. But in no uncertain terms, he's like, you're here because of your Game Awards speech. He's like, that was an eye opener to us that there's people in our industry that we can rely on to celebrate games the way we want them celebrated, and not have to bring in an outside celebrity, and not have to bring in, no offense to any, celebrity who comes in, and many of them are gamers, obviously, but not somebody who plays a few games, somebody who lives and breathes games and can sit there and tell you why this matters and who that developer is and all these different things.
Yeah.
And that's a reaction to the fact that you guys obviously got me on that stage that night and got me to do that and supported me and allowed me to be that voice in the industry. And then in the same breath, saw Todd Howard got the Lifetime Achievement Award, saw him come in, never had the chance to meet up with him at that party or whatever. And for context, the last time I'm in a room with Todd Howard, I think, was when he was giving the Skyrim demo, the first ever demo that Colin always talks about that he saw in Utah. He gave it again at some other event, and it was like me, and it was like 30 other people, and like Sessler was there, and like people like that. And I don't think I ever spoke a word to him, right? And so I see him, and we don't ever get to talk to him, blah blah. And then we're backstage, and he came out to give he already gotten his award. He was back there to go give an award. And he's walked over. He's like, "Hey, Greg, blah, blah, you're doing a great job tonight. I really like what you do." And it's one of those things of like, there's moments in my career of like, where I was talking about like the Kojima one, where that first time I get the photo and he has no idea who I am, and then the next time that we want the Greg Miller experience. It's cool to see that, and not from the jokey Greg ego level, but from the hey, you guys have built this with me into this thing where Todd Howard knows who I am, which is fucking mind-boggling because Todd Howard makes amazing video games and probably is a really busy dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but like,
it's super cool, and it's great that he's paying attention.
Yeah,
like it's not like what we're doing is the most important thing in the world or even important at all, but it's cool to hear that it is to the people that we respect so much.
And it's the same thing of like, at the after party, like sitting there and talking to everybody, 9 times out of 10, what people come up to like, oh, blah, blah, and it's like, You guys, Kind of Funny, are killing it, by the way, and I can't get over your audience.
Yep.
That gets said.
Always.
It's out of order, but Steve Gainer's topic 4. That's what he said when he was leaving. He's like, "And your audience is so great. Everyone says that about you guys."
Yeah, so that's all fantastic. We're running a little long on this topic, but Greg, what do you have any fun little stories about Shuhei or any like cool people you ran into?
I laid it all out to Shuhei what we want to do for Kind of Funny Live 3.
Uh-huh.
And he just said, what did he say? God, he's like, "You guys have some very big ideas." I'm like, "Yeah, Shu, we're trying on this one. I could use your help if we could get it."
You guys have some big ideas. I love that.
If you watch the DICE Awards, I believe it was on their last award, Neil Druckmann made a reference that, Nolan North was supposed to be there, but he had missed his flight. Literally, the show ends. We all come out. Jen was taking photos with some friends, and Nolan comes up out of breath. And I just hugged him like, "I'm so sorry." He's like, I missed my flight. Got canceled. This happened. I had to switch off 2 cabs, and he totally missed everything. Oh. And then I introduced Nolan to Jen. Great, no big deal. Blah blah. We end up at the party hours later. And I'm talking to Nolan again, and Jen comes over and she's like, "Oh, hi, I'm Jen." And Nolan just looks at her. And I'm like, "This is Nolan North. You just met him 20." She's like, "Oh my God," and ran away. She just ran away. She was so mortified to have to be introduced multiple times. That was cool. Yeah, it was. There's those moments in my life where we get to work with so many cool people, and we know all these cool people, and I'm in awe of all our developer and voice actor friends and all these different things. But to be sitting there and I'm talking to Nolan, and then some of the Naughty Dog guys showed up, and then like Shuhei popped over, and then Mike Bithell was here, and I'm like popping back and forth and blah blah. And eventually Nolan was talking to, I think, Naughty Dog, and I was like, "It's a Bithell." I'm like, "Yeah, blah blah," and he's like, "That's Nolan North," and I'm like, You don't know Nolan North?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "Oh, so sorry." And I grabbed Nolan. I'm like, "Nolan, this is Mike Bithell. He makes amazing games. Mike, this is Nolan North. He's fucking everything." And then they hit it off and just started having these conversations. Like, that's awesome. And you can only, I've had my heart broken a lot of times where I bring awesome people together, and then like, I hope they make something cool. You know what I mean? And then you hear they tried to and it didn't work out. But I'm not saying like they signed some contract there, but I'm like, fucking put him in your next game. You know what I mean? Like, why not? Make that happen. They're great dudes. It was awesome. It was a great show.
Any other closing thoughts on DICE in your experience?
Never been to DICE before. It was always the Jim Riley or Andrew Goldfarb show when we went to IGN, right? Because
I was there with Goldfarb one year.
Yeah, because it's suits and it's this moment. And it's hobnobbing, and it's interesting because it is that thing where GDC is happening right now and PAX East is about to happen, and those kind of shows are. We are indie devs. We're Rami. It's Steve Gaynor. You know what I mean? It's Tim Schafer. It's Dave Lang. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying those are lesser than people. Those are boots on the ground, very much like Kind of Funny, where, yeah, I'm CEO. I'm fucking doing everything. You are doing everything. You know what I mean? We're all hustling because we're small teams and da-da-da. DICE is the opposite of that, where it is, all right, I'm Todd Howard, and yes, I've left whatever amazing project I'm at the top of the pyramid to do to come here. And, like, that's cool and weird to walk around and have it be like, you know, Shu is usually, if he's not at my house eating dinner, Shu is usually like, "Oh, hey, how you doing? Oh, good to see you, Greg. Bah, hug. Yeah, you guys killed it at E3. I'll see you later." But you know what I mean? Like, he's getting pulled in a million different directions. But to be at an industry event, in a room at a party hosted by the state of Louisiana, that's so exclusive that I see Shu come in and I'm in the middle of a conversation, blah, blah. I turn around 20 minutes and Shu's just sitting there eating ham, drinking a beer by himself at a table that I get to walk over and sit down and spend 45 minutes with Shu. I was like, this is fucking rad. It's weird. It's cool.
It's rad. I love that. I love that so much. Hope you enjoyed that Kind of Funny Gamescast. If you did, you can make sure you subscribe here to Kind of Funny Games. And if you want content that's not games related, you can go here, subscribe to Kind of Funny. And if you want to support us and, you know, help us make cooler stuff, Patreon, it's right there, doing cool stuff. I love you. See you guys next week.